Welcome to the Symbolic Lodge of Conversation, where consciousness and curiosity interweave into discussion. This is All Square Podcast, and today we have a new setup with a new guest. He's a man, he's a father, he's a veteran, and he's also an entrepreneur. This is the story of my brother, Jason Kelley. Jason, thank you for being on the podcast.
Robbie, thanks for having me, man. I'm completely honored and wholeheartedly thankful for you having me be here.
Well, I really appreciate your service to this country and getting to know you in the fraternity and be able to tell your story in the fraternity. So, who is Jason Kelley the man?
Oh, there's so many levels. I don't know where to begin.
Where did you grow
right
up?
now? Okay, the beginning.
Yeah.
Grew up in Northeast Ohio, Ashtabula, Ohio. High school was just high school. I don't know really what to say about that much other than it wasn't the best of years for me.
How so?
I was one of the outsiders, kind of a burnout. Can I say that on here?
Sure.
Okay.
It's your story.
I did things that I probably shouldn't have in my adolescence. Nothing too dramatic, but I was always an outsider, an outcast, a different dude. You ever see the show Freaks and Geeks?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that show really sums up I was a freak and a geek at the same time. Like, I was very nerdy and also like an outcast.
Okay. How did you come all the way from Northeast Ohio, Ashtabula, you said?
Yeah.
To Northwest? I mean, did you find a job here right after high school? Did you go to college somewhere?
Well, after high school, I always say my college was the United States Marine Corps. So
Okay.
after high school, I spent the summer doing what teenagers do for a little while, and then partying a lot with friends and family. And one day I just woke up from a party, came downstairs. There was a Marine Corps pamphlet on the coffee table. I picked it up, and a buddy of mine was like, "Yeah, I'm going to see the recruiter today. Are you interested in it?" And my uncles were Marines. A couple of my friends' brothers and parents were Marines. And so it just kind of always felt kind of a calling to it, like it was something I needed to do in my life. And I said, yeah, sure, why not?
How old were you at this time?
I was on the cusp of 18.
Okay.
No, scratch that. Sorry, I had just turned 18 because this was October of 99.
I was 9 years old.
Okay. I don't look my age.
No, you don't. I thought me and you were the same age at 34, if not a few years younger.
No, I've got almost a decade on you. But yeah, I carry it well. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go talk to him, sure. And then went back down to the house and partook some more in adolescent behavior. And a couple hours later, the dude came to pick me up and was like, "Are you coming to this recruiter meeting?" And I was like, "That's today, dude?" And he was like, "Yeah, we just talked about this like 3 hours ago." And I looked, I never forget this, right? I turned around, I looked at my cousin, Larry. We called him Fathead. He's the dude, man.
Shout out to Fathead.
He's no longer with us. That's a story for another day. Is that your phone?
Well, that's weird. How did that come up?
That's Fathead.
Was that really?
From the Beyond.
Was that?
Saying thanks. He's saying thanks for shouting me out, man.
That was weird. That's never happened before. It must have been
that's
Siri.
Why. Right there, man. He's a jokester too.
Yeah.
So I never forget it though. I turned around and I was like, dude, should I go? And he said, what else are you doing? And that was all it took. It was like that voice of reason in the simplistic way of what else are you doing, right?
Yeah.
I went to the recruiter and I mean, long story short, I was shipped out less than a month later.
You're 18, you're shipping out. What did your family think about this decision?
Well, my mom was ecstatic, and also sad because I was leaving, Northeast Ohio. I was venturing off out into the world, I guess. But she was ecstatic because I was no longer just out there, a roundabout dude doing nothing. Yeah,
Okay.
dead air. Sorry.
No, not at all. So you join the Marines. What's the experience like in the Marines? Because you've been a Mason for 4 years now.
Yeah.
Being a Mason.
Well, you're fast forwarding real far.
Well,
yeah.
I want to try to bring some similarities in
Yes.
to the Brotherhood you probably have experienced during your time in the service where Masonry is. So what's that like? You're going to basic.
Culture shock.
How so?
Huge. I'm used to doing whatever I want whenever I want. And it's a different world, and you have to do this, that, when I tell you, and don't ask questions.
How is that like having to receive orders like that?
I understood it, I guess, to a certain extent, but it was definitely a shock. You gradually adhere and adapt to every situation, and so I adapted and took to it because I've always just been like a guy that needed to take my own path anyways, and I knew that this was my path. And the beauty of it, and I'm going to come back to the correlation of Freemasonry, but the beauty of it was after boot camp, 13 weeks of just intensity, I came back home. All of my friends and family were doing the exact same thing. And so I felt a sense of like, okay, I made the right choice to go a different path in my life. And that's where it took me. And so I feel like it redirected me. And for reasons, I told you off camera with my father and that whole dynamic. But the correlation between, the Marine Corps and Freemasonry, again, I feel like we're jumping far ahead, but I'll touch on it. Is it's a brotherhood that no matter where I'm at in the world today, if there's a Marine in the room, I know somebody has my six. I know somebody has my back. I have instant connection. It's shared trauma, whatever you want to call it, just that brotherhood connection of this is a brother of mine in the same room. I have family here. I'm comfortable.
I love how you just articulated that. Because though I have never served for our country, and I'm so appreciative of all of our service members in the world away from their families, dealing with that sacrifice and who have sacrificed. I experienced that brotherhood in the fraternity level during my journeys because you don't know that other, let's say, veteran, but you both know each other because you have a shared experience of duty and responsibility.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's while I was in the Marine Corps, I met a few Freemasons.
Oh, okay.
And we talked a little bit about it here and there. I think my grandfather was a Freemason, but he never really talked about it. And I asked my family, they don't really know because I don't think he ever really talked about it. So I have I've always felt a connection to it. I've always felt a drawing to it. And even when I first came to Toledo, back in 2005, a year after being discharged honorably from the Marine Corps, I reached out to a website online for Freemasonry to get more information, but then just didn't pursue it.
Is that because you were curious because you met other service members who were Freemasons, or did you go through some more research? Like, how did you stumble upon Freemasonry?
I've always stumbled upon Freemasonry.
Okay.
I feel like through my whole life, I've seen symbols. I've heard tales. I've met people, and it's always been an intrigue, right?
Mhm.
I love mysteries. So it's always been an intrigue of mine for me to explore as a man, because the men that I met that were Freemasons were just some of the most stand-up guys that I've ever met in my life. And they were just honorable, and they were, even more so than just being honorable Marines. Like they weren't just honorable, they were genuine, right?
Mhm.
Genuinely cared about me as a man, right?
Mhm.
And to have that experience with other men that looked out for other men
Right.
was something that really appealed to me. Because as I told you, I lost my father at 12. Like
Sorry to hear that.
he was shot when I was 12 years old. It's a big thing in my life. And so I always looked for, that connection for guidance, that connection for what it means to be a man, because I didn't have my father to share that with me,
Right.
of what it means to be a man and what you need to do as a man to be a good man, not just a man, but a good man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the men that I met, not just in the Marine Corps, but the Freemasons I met along the way, they upheld that appeal of like, this is what I need to emulate, right? This is my model. This is how I should conduct myself. This is how I should behave and adapt within the world. And so it's always been a part of me, in one way or another.
Well, what I think is phenomenal is that sense of duty, responsibility of being in the active service gave you it gave you that sense of purpose. And then you're meeting other examples of men who weren't at the level when you first started
Right.
in service, but you saw what they become. We always talk about the rough ashlar and the perfect ashlar, and we're always working to perfect ourselves.
Yep.
But you saw these men who were the cream of the crop, who were that definition of what you were looking for, of being a man and a sense of responsibility and service.
Right. And not only just being a man, that sense of constantly improving yourself
Right.
without judgment, right?
Mhm.
I began listening at one point. It was listening to like self-help tapes
Mhm.
to keep my mentality strong, and it was these men that were like, good for you, that's awesome that you're improving yourself, that you're going to be a better version of you, that you're challenging yourself to get to, the best version of yourself, where other men were just like, bro, what are you doing? What do you need some sort of like help?
Do you think that's a common stigma in today's society?
Of men that need help being judged by it?
Yes.
Oh, hands down.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much a just be a man,
Yeah, just deal with it.
just be a man, just deal with it,
Yep.
without setting that tone of what that really means. Like, to just be a man, right? Is there just a man? I don't know. I'm getting too deep.
No, I don't think you're not. I think you're telling the story that a lot of people are searching for a sense of purpose, especially in today's society, especially when it feels like everybody's at each other's throats and we just can't have that civil discussion. And to be able to open up, you were able to open up with your service members and be able to be vulnerable, and they built you up.
Yeah.
Then you're in service for how many years?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Just was your time to go.
Yeah, it was, my contract was up. It was my time served,
Yeah.
and I knew I wasn't going to be a career military person.
Mhm.
It wasn't necessarily for me, but it's what I needed at that time.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very outgoing, very like gregarious, very like fun loving, like making jokes, like let's cut the ice here. Let's quit playing around, or let's quit being so serious. Like, let's be real here, right? Like, you're not, just because you outrank me doesn't make you better than me, right?
Right.
I'm a man, you're a man, we're regular men. So I've always been like that just forefront thought person. And the military is militant mind state, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but I couldn't mentally conform, I guess is the best way I can say
No,
that.
no,
right?
it does. Yeah.
I loved it. I loved the experience. I will if people ask me, would you do it again? Wholeheartedly, 100%. And I don't want to discredit that experience, but the military mind state wasn't good for me.
Fair point. So 4 years, you served your time, and now you're back in the community. You come right to Toledo. You go back to Ashtabula.
Yeah.
What's the next step? You got these basic principles that you learned.
Yeah.
You're back out in civilian life,
Mm-hmm.
and those next steps lead you where?
Back down the wrong path a little bit.
Okay.
But not too much, but only because of the environment.
All right.
I got a decent job. Started working that job as I worked at one of those payday advance companies, so I learned like check cashing and, basic banking skills because I didn't go to college, so I needed some sort of like work experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then that job, my ambition and drive moved me quick from just like a teller to manager within like 2 months.
Yeah.
Because I just have a tenacity that like, and I have a technical aspect of understanding that I can problem solve very quick. And so I was able to move very quickly into management within a few months. And then, I'll just speed through this process of the timeline of, that put me into management. There was a location in Toledo that had discrepancies. They sent me and another manager to Toledo from Ashtabula, well, actually Mentor, Ohio, which is right there. They sent me and another manager here to figure out what the discrepancy was because I'm a data guy, I'm an analyst guy. And I ended up just staying here, and I love it here.
Beautiful.
It's great here.
But you didn't have at the time. Were you married?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have kids?
I did not have kids. I was married at the time because I was in the military. You can get more. They call it military marriages.
I've had friends.
You've heard this, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
But also I thought I was in love, right? As you do as a young person, you think more than what it really is. And in no discredit to the person I was with, it just wasn't the person I was supposed to be with.
Okay.
And so the distance afterwards just made it like, I don't want to be married anymore. And so I came to Toledo single.
Okay.
And just stayed.
But you're single in a city where you didn't really know people. You don't have that sense of brotherhood. How did that get you into the fraternity as a whole and land to where you are now?
Oh, man, that was a decade later. Almost. Well, no, more than that, because that was 2005.
Okay.
And I didn't get into Freemasonry in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what were you doing right when you got to Toledo? You're starting a business? I know you're an entrepreneur.
Same business.
Okay.
Then I went into, I was a consultant for a check cashing company after that. Then after that, I helped another person launch a business. And then after that, I started working for Family Video.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, jack of all trades.
Who doesn't love Family Video? But that management training was phenomenal. So I ran a few Family Video stores in Toledo, because they jump us around for a couple years. Then after that, I started working in sales at Verizon. So I went through the sales training and all that at Verizon, and I was, learning all of that. And I ended up being the top salesman in the district for Verizon, and the district manager would take me out to lunch and all that. And then my daughter was born in 2009. and I quit all of that.
So now you're a dad.
Now I'm a dad.
You have your daughter.
Yeah.
And married at this time?
No.
No? Okay.
No. I was with her for maybe a year.
Okay.
A little over a year. And, we had a difference of opinion.
Sure.
And
Happens.
separated. But I'm going to tell you something great.
All right.
With me having lost my father at a young age, the moment I knew my daughter was coming into this world, I started writing in notebooks to her.
Why?
To tell her about me. Because I always had this fear of, is it a curse? Is it something, am I going to, if I have kids, I don't want that to happen to them and them
Sure.
not know me. Because I knew who my dad was to a point, but as a adolescent and in a preteen, you don't really pay attention to your parents as much to really get to know them, right? So I didn't really have a lot of memories and knowledge of who my father was, other than stories from relatives, and the memories I didn't suppress because I didn't really understand it. So I started writing in a notebook to her, and I call them letters to Micaiah. And I wrote, and her name's Micaiah Joe, and she's my heart.
Love the name.
Thank you. I wrote in those books to her from the time I knew she was coming into this world until she went to kindergarten. So for 5 years, I wrote letters to her. And she doesn't know about them, and she probably won't see this podcast. And I'm going to give them to her on her 16th birthday.
Why 16?
Well, I don't know. I just thought it was a good milestone.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, because I met my wife 7 months after my daughter was born, and she's been in the picture ever since. And I told her about it, and I said, if anything ever happens to me, give these to her. And I know we're going down a road of that.
It's okay. You're
okay.
telling.
All right.
Trust me, there are men and other people who can definitely relate to what the journey was for you, whether they're Masons or not.
Yeah.
I know single Masons who are raising their kids. I know people who came right out of the military and had no sense of community.
Yeah. Being a father is a big part of who I am. It's huge to me.
And you didn't really have examples in your life, it sounds like.
No, not direct, but indirect. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and I had to find them.
Yeah.
But so that means a lot to me, and they're sitting in a box right now.
So what are some of the?
And she's gonna be 16 next year, so I'm excited.
Yeah. I keep thinking.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I keep thinking you're my age, and I'm 16-year-old.
No, I'm 43. So for those at this point in this podcast, I'm 43, and I'm a good 43.
Hey, that you are absolutely right.
Thank you.
These letters.
Yeah.
What are you writing to her?
What it means to be a good person, advice about life, about men, and what to expect.
Yeah.
How to carry herself, my history, who I am as a person. So if anything ever happened to me, she would understand and she would know more, and she would have that as a reference point. And after every passage I wrote, after every letter I wrote, I left a page and I wrote your thoughts at the top of it. So when she reads it, when I finally give it to her, I'm going to encourage her to write her thoughts on each passage of what she learned and understood about me, and what she thought at that time, whether it's about me or her life or whatever. So it maybe can be something that she can carry on into her, in her 40s and 30s and whatever, right? So getting that at 16, then she can carry on and have that for the rest of her life.
That's so forward thinking. To be able to leave that kind of, like, lack of a better word, memoir of life experiences.
Yeah.
And sometimes an age where a lot of people are growing up with no sense of direction. You're at least leaving examples of your life there. That's so profound, and I think that's very commendable.
Thanks, man. And I like to say sometimes that I've lived many lives because I don't know, I've been different people. I feel like I've had different personalities, maybe, if that's a good way to explain it. And all of that experience, I've done a lot in my life that I don't share with most people, and it's just a lot, right? And so I express all of that to her. And so to have that life experience passed on to her, I think is huge
Absolutely.
for me, from my perspective. Because when she was born and when I started writing these things, that became then my last life, or my, I don't know, my last life
Next
is the way to say
chapter.
it. Yeah, right.
It was a chapter 4.
It was the chapter, right?
Yeah.
It was the compendium, right, that I'm giving to her.
I think it's awesome.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. So at that age, when what year was that?
What, that I started writing it?
Well, that you started writing it.
2009.
Okay.
January of 2009. And she'll be 16 in September of this year.
Wow.
Of this year.
Well,
so she'll get it this year.
We definitely know that Masons are good at keeping secrets. So we will make sure that we don't say anything to that, and make sure she doesn't see this episode.
She won't see it. Nah, I don't think she'll watch it.
Now, you also have another child.
Yes, sir, man. I just had a son.
Congratulations.
March of 24. He's 10 months now. And it's so amazing to now be a boy dad. I was a girl dad for so long, and I love being a girl dad. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's just, princess parties and tea things and, just fun stuff. It's a different world now being a boy dad, because I feel like I can share more boy things. Like my daughter and I played Mario, we played Nintendo, I introduced her to so many great things. But now having a boy, it's more boy things that I know he'll be more interested in. Lord of the Rings, things like that. That just or I don't know. I don't want to gender specific it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But it's more things that I think he'll be more interested in than my daughter was.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you going to create a journal for him as well, or letters?
That's a few people have asked me that, and I don't know. I feel like I don't want to just do the same thing.
Could always do video.
I could with more technology, and I'm a tech guy. You know that.
Yep.
I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I don't have that sense of impending doom that I used to have. I always had that sense of I'm not going to be here for her. But now I have this sense of I'm going to be here for him. And which is weird. I'm not used to it.
Well, you grow and you change with your life experiences. You're going to be able to show him different things in his life that you were so sure when you were raising your daughter.
Right. And I've kind of contemplated on this recently, because a few people have asked me that. I contemplated on this recently, and I think I've come to the conclusion that she will tell him about me. Whereas when she was coming into the world, I didn't know who was going to tell her about me. So I needed to. So she will tell him about me.
Since the birth of mankind.
If something happens to me, right? Sorry.
Right. But nothing will.
Yes.
And since the dawn of time, we as in communities have told stories, told myths, we told tales, we told fables, we told all different kinds of stories of people who were there, imaginative. And now somebody has a chance to tell your story. We're telling your story.
Yeah.
Right now. And this is a testament of that.
Agreed.
So now you have your son.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been in the fraternity for about 4 years now.
Yeah.
Why? You said it's always been around you, but when was the point where like, I need to check this out for myself?
It's I didn't really have like a culmination of a point
Okay.
of doing it. Probably just popped in my head one day.
Mm-hmm.
I drove past the Perrysburg Masonic Lodge every day and saw the sign every day and had conversations with my wife a few times throughout our relationships about, I've always been interested. I've always been intrigued. I've always thought, or I'll do a deep dive, right, on Freemasonry, and I'll do a deep dive on YouTube and figure out things here and there. But I didn't really have like a culmination point. There's no really like aha moment, right? I just reached out. I just reached out and was like, "Hey, want some more info?"
Okay. Who was the first person you spoke to?
Brother Zook, Greg Zook.
Greg Zook.
Yep.
Shout out to Greg Zook. I've known him for many years.
He's a phenomenal man.
He is. I'm very honored to be an honorary member of that lodge. And we've had several members of your lodge on our podcast. Kevin Fuller.
Yes, great
Doug
man.
King.
Oh man, Kevin. I knew Kevin here and there. I've lived in Perrysburg since 2010. So and I've been a part of the music scene, and he has also. So I knew Kevin here and there. And when I found out that Kevin, when I visited the lodge, and I found out Kevin was a part of the lodge, he was a big drawing point for me because I kind of I felt he's a good dude.
He's such a good dude.
Good dude.
And he's
not to say anybody else isn't, but he's just a good dude. Like,
yes.
I felt it like to co-sign, I guess. Like after my journey with Zook, and then Kevin's there too. I'm like, I'm where I need to be.
Yeah, it just felt right.
It felt right.
Just like
this is where I need to be.
Just like it felt right for you when you joined the military.
100%.
But you're joining a group. Yeah, you may have known Kevin, and that probably put you at a sense of ease.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the dynamics like right after you reached out and said, more info?
Well, it was just coming out of COVID, right? So a lot of the lodge meetings were virtual. So I joined a few virtual Zoom meetings, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool. I'm used to it being a business professional. I'm used to Zoom meetings. It wasn't anything that really like wowed me, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because it was that dynamic. But and then I went through some stuff personally where like I went to a few meetings, and then we did in-person meetings. I went to a couple in-person meetings, and I just kind of like life got in the way.
As it happens.
Life caught up. I was spiraling a little bit. It didn't end up being like my focus. Right.
And by the way, even in the entered apprentice degree, we have these things called charges. So they're the ones that are not in code. It says that masonry should never interfere with your duty to God, your family, your country, yourself.
Yeah.
So taking that time, a lot of Masons take that time. Now, a lot of Masons take that time and then are hesitant to come back into the fraternity because they feel like they have some sense of, oh, I've let my lodge down. Some people have said that on the podcast in the past. Other people come right back when the time's right.
Right. Or it's also simple as a routine, right? It becomes less of a focus,
Mm-hmm.
right? A focal point. We all have our lives where we have these focal points of our routines of these are the things that I'm going to devote myself to. And then if it doesn't become a prominent feature in those focal points, it falls to the wayside, which kind of is what happened. And then one day, Kevin Fuller actually was like, "Hey man, let's get lunch." We went and got lunch, and he was just like, "Hey, man, you came to us for a reason. I wanna ask you what that reason was." And
That's an interesting question to pose to a newer member of the lodge.
yeah, yeah,
And the fact that he was like, this man's here for a reason. We got to find out what his why is.
right. And it didn't come off as like salesy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a sales guy. You're a sales guy.
Yes, I am.
There's nothing worse to a sales guy than a crappy salesperson, right? Or a sales shtick,
Yep.
right? And so it didn't come off as like it was genuine. He's a genuine person. It was a genuine like, hey, are you okay? It was more of that. Because we're friends on Facebook, and he followed a few things I was going through, and he's like, "Are you okay? What was the reason you came here? What's going on?" Boom, boom, bam, right? And it kind of revitalized me knowing that somebody gave a shit.
Absolutely.
Here's the language. We're
No.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
So somebody gave a shit about me that I admired and that I respected and that I connected with. It really hit home, because we all go through our shit.
Yes.
I said it again. I'm doing it again. Sorry.
That's fine.
All right.
That's so fortunate that a brother in your lodge had that foresight to reach out to you like that, because there are lodges, and masonry by no means is perfect.
Right.
Every lodge is a different dynamic. Some people would have just had you out there cast away and not reached out. There's a lot of times I always hear brethren talking about, man, I should reach out to that guy. And I'm always like, why don't you?
Right.
Brothers.
Shouldn't be I should. Should be I did.
I know. Why didn't you? They don't ever have an answer for that.
Right. And the whole point here is to take care of each other, look out for each other,
Exactly.
treat each other right.
Yep.
And guide each other, right?
Mm-hmm. So what was that why for you when it was revitalizing you?
So I had gone through a big spiral in my life as an entrepreneur.
You can talk about it or not. There are people who own businesses that are listening, but
yeah, I'll touch on a little bit of it. Like I built a phenomenal business, and I put my heart and soul in it, and ended up getting kind of, I don't know how to explain it in a PC way, backstabbed.
Okay.
Just my
Toxic environment.
toxic people, toxic
Here.
environment. Just
I need to get out.
well,
Need to find a new avenue.
yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
It was very much like I'm surrounded by clowns.
Yeah.
And I'm a king.
It's always good to have that confidence.
Yeah.
And you found your lodge.
I couldn't be around men like that anymore.
Sure. And you wanted to be around men of quality, men that went back to your military days.
Right.
Both the Masons and the non-Masons.
Right.
But you said, you know what? I have a mantra I say to myself: surround yourself by successful people and you will learn how to become successful.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's exactly what you went for after that discussion with Kevin.
Yeah. I needed to be around honorable men.
Mm-hmm.
Because honor is a huge thing with me. And yeah, it just revitalized me, man.
Good. So the dynamics of your lodge culture, let me ask this actually.
Yeah.
Is masonry needed in today's society?
Needed for society is such a very general way to put it. I think it's needed for men that need purpose. I think it's needed for men in society that need purpose, that don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, 100% it's needed in society.
Good. How so? What does it offer? We all talk about the tenets. We talk about faith, hope, and charity and being there for our brethren, like, what is the need that Masonry can help with for those people looking for that sense of purpose?
I mean, that's a pressure question.
Okay, it is.
It's a lot of pressure there.
All right. And it's your answer.
All right. Okay.
It's not, remember, these are the views of Jason Kelley,
valid.
not the views of any Grand Lodge or any appendant body.
Right.
This is your story.
Right. So I think it's necessary for men that thoroughly enjoy the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the guidance of other men that understand what it is to be just good men, without judgment, without negativity, without just placating things, without being yes men of yes, go ahead and do that. No, it's holding each other accountable. It's accountability too, right?
Yeah.
It's holding each other accountable to being, when we have our faults, when we have our times of vice, disparity.
Absolutely.
Right? It's having that brotherhood to reach out to if I need just a conversation.
Well, we always talk about that Masonry brings men of all different walks of life, character. Phoenix Lodge, I can name off the top of my head. You have a carpenter who's also a city council member, Kevin Fuller.
Yeah.
You have a lawyer like Doug King.
Dude, we got a guy that, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No.
We got a guy that, Hammond, he built his own airplane, right? And flies it.
He built his own airplane, and he owns a software managed IT
okay,
service.
so we're getting two different people.
Oh.
No, Jeff Hammonds manages a great software company.
Yep.
A newer brother of ours.
Okay. We don't need the name.
Right, okay. He's a pilot, built his own airplane from scratch.
That's almost unbelievable in my opinion.
And flies it. Yeah, man, it's just all walks of life.
All walks of life.
All walks of life.
So there's mentorship in that.
A millwright is there. A personal trainer is there. Like, it's just good men, right? That want to sit around and talk to other good men what it's about being good men.
Yeah, it really becomes that compass that help navigate you through life's toilsome journeys sometimes.
Yeah.
And to feel like I'm not alone.
Valid.
Right? That I don't have to deal with this world by myself.
Right.
I can have these open discussions, seek guidance.
Yeah, and it's not something you're going to find on social media.
No, not at all.
And I think that's a good point to be said of a lot of men that are in that position of some sort of disarray, some sort of misguidance, some sort of turmoil, some sort of mental cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Might look to, if I post this on social media, I'll get some recognition. Maybe I'll post this on social media of how I feel. I'll get somebody to justify it. I'll post these thoughts, and then it's just a vapid spiral downward of negativity that they're going to get. But they really need to seek something better and more positive and light.
Yes. Where are you at now in your lodge? Are you an officer at this point? Because I don't believe
junior deacon.
You're a junior deacon, okay? So
yeah.
Middle of the road of the officer line.
Bottom of the road. Well, no.
Yeah, each one's
easy.
Its own unique journey.
I'll say the easy road of the officer line. And I've been there for 2 years, and I plan on staying there.
Yeah, you guys don't really have a succession at your lodge where it's like a progressive line where it keeps moving forward. You guys kind of, I've even seen some of your masters decide to take 2 years.
Yeah.
I was only a master for a year. I got a lot done. But
it's a lot of work.
I also see so many men who are at where you're at and don't take the time just to journal, plan. What do I really want to do by the time
Yeah.
I'm the head of my lodge?
I'm absorbing
Yeah.
is what I'm doing. I don't have an agenda. I don't have to like want to run through and get, any kind of any accolades.
Mhm.
I just enjoy being there with my brothers. I enjoy being there, doing my part. I enjoy that connection that I have. I know there's more. And as my journey grows organically, I will venture down those roads. But right now, where I'm at is very sufficient.
I'm so glad you're saying that, because so many people are enjoying it so much, and we're supposed to circumscribe our desires and keep our passions in due bounds. And sometimes that zealousness and excitedness will take them into so many different branches in Masonry. Once you become a Master Mason, you're just enjoying the journey because it's a lifelong journey.
It is. Right.
It's been around for
I'm
over...
not going anywhere.
No, it's definitely not. And you'll know when it's right to take those next steps, but you're building that solid foundation within yourself with your lodge brothers, getting to know the lodge dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it feel when you guys are bringing in a new member at Phoenix? I mean, you're actually watching where once upon a time you once knocked and walked into.
Right. I think it's similar to maybe a foreign exchange student that enters a new family.
Go on.
Like, when you have a foreign exchange student that comes to a family, they're a new part of the family that has to learn the family dynamic.
Yes.
But you're open arms and welcoming them, right?
Yeah.
And trying to teach them the ways and understand what they're about and them understand what you're about.
Yeah. 100%. What should your wife think about this? I mean, you're in this fraternity. I don't know if they told you what you could and could not say. Sounds like you have a very great dialogue with you and your wife.
Yeah.
What's that conversation like?
She loves it.
Really?
Loves it.
Good.
She loves not only that it gives me a good sense of purpose as a man, but she's supportive in the fact that, when we have our lodge meetings, we have dinner before. And my wife and daughter come to those dinners every month.
Now, the dinners that you have every month, is this the lodge getting together for like a crock pot?
No, the stars.
The Eastern Stars.
Eastern Stars.
Eastern Stars is a co-ed branch in the fraternity where couples, wives, even now I hear some legislation rumbling where people who don't have a Masonic lineage, a lady who doesn't have a Masonic lineage will be able to join.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
newer, right?
recent. It's long overdue.
Right.
So if women want to be able to be a part of it, because isn't this the one cool thing about the fraternity? We might have not ever met each other. Well, we would have probably we probably would.
We already knew each other in a way.
In a way, because you and I are active in our chambers and activities.
Yeah.
But there's a chance where we could have not have met, or we would have been two ships in a night.
Right, and we might not have had the same connection.
Right.
Right, just because we're members of chambers and other networking groups, that doesn't mean I can look across the room at you and know exactly who you are.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. So where do you see this fraternity going in the direction of, with the atmosphere of in the United States today? And how do you able to articulate this to men who are online trying to find a sense of meaning?
I think that in itself, I think the fraternity needs to do more online.
Okay.
And you're doing a phenomenal job with it.
Thank you.
Like, you are in your pocket, brother. I told you this. And I think that the fraternity needs to do more online to showcase really like what it is. So it's not, what is it?
Right.
Right? It's what it is. And so I think what we can do in the future is growing other chapters and getting them, having them build a more online presence of showcasing like really what it is and not what is it.
Yeah. Which you actually have helped your lodge build more of a digital footprint in today's world. And how are you doing that?
Yeah, so I helped. I'm a web developer, designer, tech guy, digital guy. So I rebuilt our website
Mhm.
for the lodge, and I revamped our social media for the lodge to give us more of a community presence within, not just within Perrysburg, but online, to showcase like, it's not just a 1995 DOS website. It's a modern day website.
Yes.
I'm not trying to shamelessly plug my abilities here, but at the same time, like, it's what's needed in today's age, right? We need to have more of a modern presence. And I did that very well with a little bit of hesitation, because they're like, I'm a little bit newer in the lodge, and it's like, okay, what are we doing here with this? But I did it, and I accomplished the goals that we set out to accomplish, and it's a phenomenal site, and it's doing great traffic.
How's it doing with, are you seeing any benefits of people joining the fraternity with adding to that
Oh,
website?
yeah, dude, we're getting at least a new inquiry a month, and in just in the past month, we had 2 brothers from other lodges across the country that came to the general area that found our website to find a new lodge or find a lodge to visit.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's digital. Everything is digital these days. And so to build that dynamic on search engines allowed us to achieve that.
It's incredible what you've been able to do, because if we're not telling our story, somebody else on the outside looking in will
Yeah.
tell that narrative, or whatever they find of evidence, quotation marks, whether it's good or bad, nefarious. So much time on the dark web you see, or on these Reddits and other social media, you will see people disparaging what the fraternity is.
Well, people hate what they don't know.
Right. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. We
Yeah.
talk about that village mind. Don't go out into the jungle. You don't know what's going to happen.
Well, and I saw another episode you guys did where somebody like described the difference between an occult or a cult.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It was a cult, like joining a cult, and occult,
Occult,
which is traditional Latin for hidden knowledge.
right.
Mhm.
I like to say it's not a cult, it's a culture.
It's a cult. It's not a cult. It's a culture.
Because it is a culture, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's a culture because we're family oriented.
Yep.
There's ways we do things, there's ways we address ourselves that are upright, and they're beautiful. But it's a culture like anything else. Not unlike BNI. Like, you're in BNI.
For
I'm in
people who
BNI.
don't know what BNI is, why don't you tell people what it is?
Okay, BNI is Business Networking International,
Yes.
right? And it's networking groups, chapters that form to network business amongst each other. And there's doctrines, and there's SOPs, standard operating procedures.
Thank you.
Yep. And there's ways that you track your numbers, and there's regulations you have to follow.
Yep.
And there's things you have to be accountable for this culture, right?
Yes, it's much like it's being in a chapter organization where you, hypothetically, you would be the web developer seat.
Right.
I would be the telecom seat in my
Right.
industry. We don't cross cross promote our own things to take away business from you. What we do is we learn, educate, hold each other accountable,
Right.
and be able to provide referrals through our weekly meetings. And there is certain principles and dogmas and rules that we have to follow.
Right.
And we see there's
But it's all for business purposes to know, like, and trust each other. Like, it's valid. Like, and trust somebody.
Absolutely.
And that speaks volumes, right? And so it's not a cult, it's a culture. It's a culture just like many other organizations that you just understand.
Yeah. And that's how it is in the lodge, because everybody comes from all walks of life. Everybody has those shared experiences. Everybody is from different jobs. And sometimes lodge members, either from your lodge or other lodges, will overlap and work with each other. It's a big networking group.
Oh my God. I want to share this story.
Please.
So, I got a referral through BNI from a credit card processor that I knew that said this gentleman is looking to revamp his e-commerce website.
Okay.
And I would love to, connect you with him. So he sent me the referral, and this was a huge, like, a big win for me. Like, this was a big client for me that, I prepared for. I built an entire pitch deck. Like, I made a whole presentation, prepared, understood everything. Like, I did my due diligence, right? And I go to meet him for lunch to roll all this out to him. I sit down with him. He sees my ring, which is a square and compass.
Thank you.
It's my Masonic ring. He sees my ring and he said, "Oh, nice ring, brother." And I said, "Oh, do you understand?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, I'm also a brother."
Wow.
And I said, "Oh, yay."
Build instant credibility.
He said, "Don't worry about your pitch. You already got my business."
Why is that?
We shared a pizza and a beer, and he's been one of my best clients, man.
Why is it?
Because he knew I was a credible person. I was already a vetted, like, I'm not just a roundabout scoundrel. I'm not a sleazy salesperson. I'm not one of those, fly by night businesses. I'm a stand-up guy. I'm a credible brother. I'm a real man.
Yes, you are. Listen, we're coming up to the end of our episode. This has been fascinating. I really appreciate you telling your story. But one thing we always like to do here.
Yeah.
There will and are men out here looking for that sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Maybe they just got done with their service in the military. Maybe they're in a job transition and they're looking for something new to immerse themselves in network, or maybe somebody's alone fighting that silent battle that they can't talk about because they were told as men. What are the words of advice you would tell them for somebody that could benefit from Freemasonry?
Man, that's a lot.
I know.
I'll just say, like, if you're a good dude, we're good dudes. So stop just beating around the bush. Stop playing these things over in your head of why you or how you want to be a good man. I mean, it's hard to say, like, one sentence.
Well,
it's going to be that sound bite, right?
You can say more.
That's going to be like, there's the adage is ask one, be one. Isn't that a thing?
To be one, ask one.
To be one, ask one, right? That's a thing. But I think it expands more than that. It's you are one. Find out why.
Now that's a good way to end this episode. That's my brother, Jason Kelley. I'm RL Franks, and you are all square. Thank you.
Yeah, brother.
Hey, R.L. Franks here. Thanks again for watching today's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you believe someone can benefit from the message that we provided on today's podcast, send it over to them. You may inspire them.